And hello again. Yes, it is CodeZone 62. Now, we're starting at a rather odd time tonight. It seems to be 10 past 8, and that's definitely not because I did miscalculation when I posted the link as to what time we were starting. So, an unusual start time, but nonetheless, I wrote it down. Damn it, I stick by the things I say. So it's 10 past 8. We'll be streaming probably for about an hour, maybe just a little bit over. So we'll see how we go. Now, something a bit different this week. It's still going in line with our editor, but we had to take a little bit of a tangent. Let's see who we've got here, because I noticed there was a few people already sort of in the chat. So Majestic first. Congratulations. Bixie's here. Speedy's here. Standard Int's here. Annicator's here. And Gruffler. Oh, good. Right. So, what has happened since we last spoke? Yeah, I'm going to try and not sort of dox as... actually, I'm going to try and dox as many people as I can tonight. We'll see. Alta, hello. Right. So, what's happening? Well, I was working on the editor. Let's start there. So I'll pull up the editor program as we know it. It is this one. Yes, good. I've got two Visual Studios open. Oh, I'm well prepared for all this tonight, aren't I? Now, I started working on the editor, and as you remember last time, I had a slight sort of decision to make. Do we go down the route of the exporting library, the generation of text files of data, the sort of abstraction of data types and creating an API, or do we go and create loads of fantastic geometry, points, like lines everywhere, gradients, lots of interesting shapes, collisions and that sort of thing, really interesting stuff. And as you can see, I'm conflicted as to which one we should choose. And I think I'm going to plump for keeping the project going a little bit. I'm going to do some of the geometry stuff, which means we're going to start drawing polygons and shapes and triangles and circles and lines and filling them in and making them all look pretty. And I demonstrated a quick prototype where I showed a little video. This was all in the last week. Now, I started to sit and think, how am I going to do this? Well, one of the things that Pixel Game Engine 2 has is a utility file called Geometry 2D. Now, this is a nice file. Let's have a quick glance at it, because it's worth sort of understanding what this file's all about. So the Pixel Game Engine standalone thing all works, but it can be enhanced with some utility files. And I've got some up here. And these are typically more application-specific things. They're not extensions. They don't give any additional functionality to the game engine, but they do provide sort of convenience classes. For example, I have a camera utility file. So this is a camera. It'll work like a camera in a game. It can follow a target. There's different camera modes. You can get it to act like a world map camera, or it can work like a Zelda dungeon camera, or it can act like a lazy kind of following camera, and it's all sort of handled for you. And the idea is it works very agnostically to how your implementation is behind the scenes. It just sort of exists and does its thing. Let me just have a quick glance at what's going on here. So Alta is jumping ahead. I had a look in the geometry extension and saw the polygon class has a collection of vertices. Would this represent model or world vertices? Well, that's entirely up to you. There's the polygon is neither. It is just a thing. How it gets rendered on the screen is up to whatever renders it, I suppose. Anyway, we'll come back to that in a second, because it's jumping ahead a bit. So another kind of utility is the animation utility. So this is a nice one. We can set up various sources for imagery, and it just sort of cleverly goes away behind the scenes and makes animation happen. So you can either have all your images in one picture and you take little rectangles out of it, or you can have lots of pictures. It doesn't care. And there's various different animation routines built into this as well. So it's a nice way to just quickly get things up and running. And I was abusing the hell out of these when we were doing the jam entry for the Code Jam this year. And I thought, you know what, these are actually really worth pursuing. Another good one is the quad tree one. There's videos about this on YouTube. So it's actually, people cast some doubt on its efficiency, but I'm willing to bet it's not far off being pretty good in terms of working for its intended purpose, which is it's not sort of general purpose geometry in this case. It does have to be sort of rectilinear geometry in some way or another. So then I started a new type of project, and this was a bit different for me. It's called Oddball. And the plan was to sort of open this up to the community and let the community create all sorts of interesting functions. Stuff that is kind of related to Pixel Game Engine things, but you see on the Discord server and you see on the showcases and when people send me links and things, that there's all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff that people have created, which have had to have specific functions created just to do them. And I probably will actually open this up to the public to just go ahead and start donating their interesting functions. It could be quite chaotic because the one that as you can see, I've not really got very far in implementing was getting the file icon as an OLC sprite. I have actually done that. I think I demonstrated that in a CodeZone ages ago, where you can just drag all the files from the Explorer shell into your application and they all appear as Pixel Game Engine entities. So I was going to sort of put that there. It was useful. Rosso, greetings. Annie, model space is secretly world space. Yeah, you see. Would it be worth doing a second collection of vertices so the polygon can store both models and any transformation? Well, that's up again. It's up to you. So you just create another polygon and you would transform it into the one that you want. A polygon doesn't necessarily have to be something that's renderable. That you seem to be attaching more stuff to a polygon than what it actually is. Channel Mouse, hello. So where's all this going? What's going on? So I thought we'll have one which handles all of the routine interactions between, well, basic shapes. So points and lines and circles and squares and triangles. And as Alter keeps pointing out, polygons. Dirk, winter's making me depressed. Oh, well, that's no good. Got to think of all the fun stuff that happens in winter. We have Christmas over here, and my family are very excited for Christmas, particularly one individual. I know it was already hinted at. I think we need some proper testing for the geometry stuff. Yeah, that's a good point, and maybe when we start looking through the file and the GitHub stuff, we'll have a look at that. I am not particularly au fait with GitHub, and I think there are some sort of automation routines which we should probably implement. But let's get there. Let's keep telling this bit of a story. I know people are keen to jump to the end. So I thought we'd have... One of the things that frustrates me is whenever I've got a rectangle and a circle and I want to somehow get them to collide, maybe one's a player character or a tile, I've got to go digging through old bits of code and say, how did I do that last time? What was the solution? I don't want a physics engine as such, but I just want sort of all of these little two-dimensional geometric sort of interactions. And I started to collect them. So if we look at the top of this file, we can see we've got the definition of a line. It uses the OLC floating point, OLC vector 2D type fundamentally. So we've got what it is to be a line. There's some placeholders for things in the future, but out of a line and some points we can define rectangles. The rectangle is a position and a size, and we can get lines from the side. Well, it's a nice sort of lesson in object-oriented stuff and how we can build upon the basic shapes and primitives. Then we've got circle type. Of course, there's no lines that you can get out of a circle, really. Maybe you can get a tangent at a specific point. Might be an interesting line to get. I don't know. But again, some basic shapes. Now, you'll notice these don't inherit from some shape base class. Oh, hang on. Let me just turn up my thing. I should have my headphones on, shouldn't I? Thought it was quiet. Going on. Majestic Wizard Cat. Thank you very much. I didn't have time to contribute. There's still loads to do, channel. Loads and loads and loads to do. Have a look, and we'll sort of. I'm going to do the pitch in a bit, so we can have a look. Let me just put that on this here as well. There we go. Hopefully that won't deafen me the next time that happens. But thank you very much. I appreciate that. You'll notice that these don't all inherit from some base class, and that's quite deliberate. I can't pronounce that, but thank you. They're quite deliberately not all meant to be of one particular shape, because I'm taking a rather old school approach to how this is constructed. A triangle here is just an array of 3 points, and you'll start to notice there's something weird going on. I vomited modern C++ all over this file, particularly when we start looking at the interactions. Now, the guys that are helping me on this will notice this isn't quite the file that we've been working on, and I'll come to that in a minute. But what I wanted to do was create just some functions like this one, closest, that exists. That's probably, well, let's pick something, yeah, okay, this one is a bit of a silly one to exist, but it does exist. So we've got something closest, and we can pass into it, in this case, it's a point and another point. So this function will resolve what is the closest point to point 1 from point 2. It's a bit silly, this one, because it doesn't really exist. But let's go down to something a bit more intricate. What is the closest point on this rectangle shape to the point that we supplied, and it will go away and sort of calculate that for me. And it turns out if you've got like 5 different shape primitives and you've got want to work out what the closest points are, and you might want to work out whether one shape contains the other, and you might want to work out whether one shape overlaps the other. And there's sort of lots of different logical tests that you can perform here. And I think with the overlaps, contains, closest, and finally intersects, you can actually work out pretty much everything you need to know about how two shapes interact. You can logically deduce everything from those. I can't formally prove that, but my gut tells me that I'm not far off. The intersects ones are quite nice because, of course, you can have multiple intersection points in different places. So let's pick, this is triangle intersecting with point. You see quite a large file. I check if rectangle overlaps line segment. Now, this is it's a good one to pick on. So here we've got, let me explain what's actually happening here, because not everybody will understand all of this C++ vomit. We have a single header file solution. I like those sorts of things. It's pixel game engine-y, but it's also becoming a bit of a growing trend now to release libraries this way, because you don't have to faff about with disgusting build systems. Instead, you just include the file directly, and it kind of just works. Just a second. Oh yeah, I don't have any sort of Ray stuff going on at the moment. The placeholder's there. Football's on. That's when 22 men kick a sphere around a manicured field. Okay. All right, Alter. See you later. Big fan of header only. I think it's a growing trend. When I was on the CPP cast podcast thing, I got pulled up on it, and I was told that it's actually not a nice way to do things. And I actually said, do you know what? Have you tried working with some of these some of these libraries these days? Just getting anything to basically compile in a way that you understand is now tricky. It's disgusting that you've got to have projects that lug around additional scripts that tell the projects how to compile themselves. There's something wrong. Anyway, that's me ranting. Johnny G, thank you very much. Johnny G, I give him a bit of a plug because he squirrels away on probably the most complicated project related to the Pixel game engine I've ever seen. He's made it work for Android and iPhone. And not only that, but then also exploit all of the vector arithmetic stuff on the embedded processors for those devices, as well as vector arithmetic stuff for desktop architectures too. And he's plugging away at this project, keeps chipping away at it, chipping it away, and we see these screens and we see these results, and then somebody will try it and there's a problem, and he'll stay up all night trying to get it fixed, and he's really dedicated to it. And I just feel that he doesn't quite get the credit that he actually deserves. So thank you, Johnny G, for the effort you're putting in. I think it's probably time at some point during my Christmas break, perhaps, that I might have a dabble with the Android implementation and add to your growing list of things that cause you a headache, I think. But let's have a look at what's going on with this bit of code. So these are template functions, which may be a bit uncommon if you're coming at things from a slightly older version of C++. I've targeted sort of C++ 20 in this, and the reason being is I'm not really developing Pixel Game Engine 2 anymore. I'm developing Pixel Game Engine 3, and C++ 20 is already it's already 3 years old and a bit older. It'll probably sort of fall back to being 17 compliant by the time we're all done with it, but 20 is kind of what I'm targeting. Right, so what we've got here, it's a template function, and there's 2 specific types. Now, I'm sure there's some template magic you can do to sort of simplify that, but let's stick with something I can understand. Now, it's inline. Now, that's changed its meaning over the time that I've been using C++ languages. It used to mean try and unroll this code in the location that it's called. That's no longer the case, because I think compilers will just natively make those decisions for us. Let's not leave that to the user. Oh, hang on. We've got all sorts going on here. Let me just have a quick catch up with some of the chats. We've got Anarchator being an elitist. That sounds about right. Oh, we've got some subscribers going on. Let's have a look. Majestic Wizard, thank you very much. 5 tier 1 subs. Oh, that's very much appreciated. What a nice Christmas gift that is. Thank you. Oh, very good. I have to keep quiet now though, because this thing keeps going ping, ping, ping. And I don't know how loud it is for you guys. I get complaints every single time. It's too loud or... Yeah, you know, Standard In, I think you're right. Yeah, well, I know that you're right in this instance. But the reason I've done it is I kind of like the consistency of it. It's just the... And for me, its definition is slightly different now. So I think, and for my sort of mental construction of the file, inline is basically a hack to tell the linker that it doesn't really matter. As long as you've seen this before, that's the one that you use, please. Just somehow make this a big, fat, global thing that you can find easily. And if it causes problems later on, that's on you. And I like that attitude of the compiler. Anyway, it's also a const expression, which means we can work these things out at compile time, which is quite nice, a small saving there. And it takes in this case, a rectangle and a line. Now, the types of the rectangle and the line may be different. But what I'm going to try and do is defer to the C++ compiler to use its order of precedence and its type preference. There's a fancy name for that, to actually work these things out. So if you've got integers and doubles, it goes and sorts it all out in the appropriate way that a C++ programmer would expect things to happen. And then I can start to use the other sort of logical functions that we've created to analyze these shapes in order to come up with a solution. But there's a problem. I wanted to test for whether a line overlaps with a rectangle. And my approach was to say, well, if the start of the line is inside the rectangle, or the end of the line is inside of the rectangle, then obviously the line has to overlap the rectangle. Of course, that is true. But, as it clearly states here, this is no good. It can't detect lines whose start and ends are outside the rectangle, but crosses through the rectangle space. And it turns out that when you've got like quite a lot of these functions, which some of them work, some of them don't, some of them are a bit unclear, it becomes a lot of work to actually work these things out. And I've decided, do you know what? I'm a busy guy. I've got quite a number of projects on the go. I've got this fantastic community of programmers, frankly, that are more talented than me. And they can probably do a better job. I'll manage it and I'll sort it out and I'll maintain it. Let's open up this particular file to the public for the contributions. Now that's unusual for me as one lone coder. It's not something I like doing. I don't like GitHub, and I don't particularly like working on code that others have put together. However, my mind has been changed because I put this out on Sunday. I said, let's go and work on it. And I created a repo. Here it is. Wow. Take that, everybody. I created this repo and I said, help. I need help. There's just too many combinations of shapes and interactions, and each one of them requires subtly different mathematics. How can I possibly get this done? Please help me. And so I outlined what the function should do in some rudimentary, logical speaking way. And there's actually there's one missing from here. We didn't put closest on the list. And at the bottom, so please help me. And I also threw together a quick test application. So as I thought, you know what, let's not just say here's the header file, go away and write code. Here's the tools to help you write this code. And we constructed. I provided also the Pixel game engine, and I created some GUI tools. And so I tried to make it as easy as possible for people to get stuck in straight away and do some relevant testing. And I think this has worked. So there's a good tip there. If you want people to help you out with your stuff, don't put up barriers to them helping you with your stuff. Right, let's have a quick glance at some of these chats. So thank you, yes, Majestic Wizard Cat, for all that. Much appreciated. Enjoy the holidays. Yes, I'm certainly looking forward to it. I'm actually working right up until the 22nd. So I only really get Christmas Day and Boxing Day off. The neighbours congratulate you. Yes, they did. Alex, yes, you're in the elite now. Proceeds to use float in functions for temporary. So, yeah, so we'll have a look at some of these things. Good old slave labour. Well, I mean, you know, yeah, I guess it kind of is. I actually forgot about this. You might be able to contribute. Well, the idea is I thought every programmer I know at some point, if they've worked on some 2D games, they've got these sort of functions lying around, and so they should be easy to donate, if that's what if the right word is. So I went ahead and created this repo, and I then created a separate solution, which is for me it's the same as the repo, and provided this this test application. I'd had the skeleton of this test application kicking around for a little bit, and well, it was useful for me, but perhaps it keeps saying here, only visible to you. It's taking up all the space. You received a level 2 hype train emote. Share. Choo choo. You can tell I twitch like a pro, right? Exactly. There we are, Majestic Wizard Cat. I'm going to call you just Majestic for short, if you don't mind. I think I wrote this kind of stuff like 10 times. Yeah, it is. It's exactly that. Everybody's written. I've written it hundreds of times over, and I was just tired of writing it over and over and over again. When really, you don't want a full object hierarchy of things to do this. You just want to call a quick function occasionally to do a test between two shapes, and you can as long as the library is constructed in a way that you can construct those shapes quickly and you can use them sensibly, then it should all work. So let's run the application. Let's hope it runs. Please compile. If not, I'm blaming the community because it's obviously their fault. Now I've got my compiler on a pretty verbose warning standard. So that's why there was a load of junk coming out there. Most of those are actually Pixel Game Engine, so we'll not talk about those right now, of course. And so this simple GUI that was thrown together, so this uses the quick GUI extension that allows you to put some buttons and sliders and things with no effort into a Pixel Game Engine app. And you choose basically two shapes, and it goes away and does all of these different analysis between them. So let's have a point and a line. So in this case, the cursor is a point, and there is a line on the screen. And as you can see, it's returning. The green circle represents the closest point on that line to my cursor here. And I think if I put I can do, if I get it just on the right place there, because the pixels are integers in this case, so you do actually have the ability to put the point on the line. We can see that the point overlaps the line. That's coming up with, oh, maybe you guys can't. It's actually just behind the chat. So let me just shrink that up there a little bit so perhaps you can see it. This will be a bit fiddlier to do now. There we go. So we can see that we can overlap. Is true. We've got contain. So does the line contain the point? In this case, yeah, I guess it's the same as overlap, and do the intersect. Let's try point versus rectangle. So again, the mouse cursor is the point. So the green circle represents the closest point on the rectangle to that point, which is quite nice, and contains an overlap working nicely too. Intersections, in this case, the point intersects with the rectangle once, and it returns that point. Maybe we should change the host application to list those intersection points. Point versus circle, I'm sure you're starting to see sort of the trends here. Wherever the mouse cursor is the point, and we're testing against a circle. And finally, triangle. So that's a point versus all those shapes. Let's go and have a look at the next one. So if I choose line, and here. So this is kind of the other way around now. So I've got a point in the middle of the screen. You can just about see it. And you can see when I'm looking for the closest point on my line, the green thing is moving around nicely. Let's go line versus line. Now, these are subtly different gradients, so we can do that, you see. So do they overlap? Yes, there is an intersection. Perfect, good. Now, line versus rectangle. You see we've got two intersections this time. In this case, they overlap. But now the rectangle contains the line. I wonder if overlap should also be true in that case. These are the sort of questions now that where the library is gaining a bit of content. We're sort of needing to have these debates. So it contains it. Overlap true, because we've got to make sure that they behave consistently. So in this case, you see the line. It's overlap, but it's also contained within the circle, whereas for rectangle, that's not the case. So there's little discrepancies like that we need to work on yet. But again, what do you expect? In this case, it's line interacting with circle, and for triangle, you can get different intersections. I'm sure you're beginning to get the picture. The closest point dot hasn't been implemented for all of the combinations yet, so it just sort of defaults to 0, 0 if there isn't a known solution. We can have a look at these rectangle versus rectangle. So in this case, when it was a line versus a rectangle, it yielded a different result. So yeah, a little inconsistency there. We've not done intersections for this yet, so still got work on that to do. Circle, we've got circle versus circle as points. Now that's quite nice. I like that one. Yeah. And circle versus triangle, again, we've not done the interactions. So there are some missing still. Triangle versus triangle basically has nothing. Nobody's really been looking at those. Now, two other things to add into this. It's useful to get some envelopes or bounding areas. So let's say we wanted, what is the smallest circle that encapsulates a shape? That's another useful function to have sometimes, particularly if you're doing a coarse sort of collision detection, because circle collision detection is cheap. As you know, you have laughed and giggled and implemented and played with my balls on many occasions. We've also got rectangles. For some reason, somebody chose a delightfully burly, visible dark magenta on a blue background to highlight that one. But hey, that's the beauty of leaving these things to the community to sort out. So that's the test application running there. It also compiles for the browser. Let me just have a quick glance at some of the chats. Right, I was also thinking of pitching it's Majestic. And it's, oh yeah, sorry, I've scrolled back up a bit here. Hey, streamer and chat. You are God believer or science believer? I actually keep those sort of things to myself. Right, Channel Mouse, why not both? Well, exactly. I think Annie's kind of got it right here. We're not sort of into philosophies and things here. Yeah, it returns both points, Annie. It's quite nice. What a beautiful circle. Yes, thank you, Bixie. Bixie was one of the contributors here. And so this is coming. Okay, this is interesting. Envelope is such a cryptic term for bounding shape, right? And I thought that was interesting because obviously Magetsu's been looking at the repo. He's trying to be all cool and trying to predict where things are going. Let me just find the repo. I've been using some of the tools, and one of the issues that popped up today was naming. Using bounding box and bounding circle instead of envelope R and envelope C could help with predictability. Now, I think there's some translation problems here. I don't ever hold that against anybody. I can't speak any other languages other than English, so it's certainly, if somebody gets something like that incorrect, it's no skin off my nose, as it were. Now, I thought this was interesting because my original intention was actually to call them bounding circle and bounding box. I just don't like the word. So I guess it's a community project, so I guess we can change it. And I thought, have I, you might be able to see at the top of the screen here, have I sort of misunderstood why I've called them envelope? Let's get rid of this, whatever this nonsense is. Right. Envelope in American English. Geometry, a curve or surface tangent to each member of a set of curves or surfaces. Well, we're not quite tangent, but the spirit of what we're doing is there. Something that envelopes or envelops a wrapper or surrounding cover. A surrounding or enclosing structure. Let's have a look for, if we actually just, envelope for geometry. Envelope in mathematics, a curve that is tangential to each one of the family curves. There's even a Wikipedia on it. So, it's not that it's wrong. It's just undesirable, I think. It's... You see, it doesn't have to contain a letter. That's the point, right? So I think this is a... I think it's an interesting choice of wording. Now, the way I'm going to satisfy this, look at this. What is this rubbish? I don't know if any of you ever look at Temu, but it's garbage. Right, so I don't mind. So if this is such a critical problem for people, do you know what we're going to do? We're going to go and just simply add in some proxy function names that do exactly the same thing. Let's have a look. First time chat from Andrea Caresho. OT question. What do you think about Zig? If you're asking me personally, I have no experience of using it. So I don't have an opinion. That's it. It's some sort of like meant to be memory safe C thing. Am I recalling that correctly? I might not be. Does it contain a letter? No. What are those images? Yes, exactly. It's just rubbish adverts. I'm studying quantum physics, so geometry is not my really my fave. I think you might find that there's probably some geometry in quantum physics. It's not standard. So obviously, I'm catching up. I'm so far behind on some of the chats. Mathematically accurate. Well, no, you see, it's not exactly. So standard, it's right. So it's bounding rect, bounding circle. If that's more fitting, if that's the right, if that's the right thing to use, then that's what we will use. Jeffrey's personalized ads are interesting. It kind of pinned me down. Annie isn't a mod here. Quite right. Quite right. You don't want Annie being a mod everywhere. It gets dangerous. Talk about bounding for this. WX widgets also works like WX color and color. Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking. So I think for me, envelope is my sort of mental correct answer. But let's tell you what, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do this right now. So let's go to the header file. So where was I going with this? The header file. This is the header file, and you can tell it's the header file because one, I'm going to sort of rearrange some of the top up here, but I've started collecting the people who've been contributing. To put in here, and I'll sort out the copyright as well because I'm not comfortable sort of claiming copyright for open source projects, but that will all change. And I added some features to sort of quickly navigate the file. Nobody said thank you for that yet. Maybe it's just clutter. And I've made the file sort of standalone, so you don't actually need the Pixel Game Engine in here at all in order to use any of these in your project. And I think that's quite a nice thing because I believe with the right publicity, and as long as it's accurate, and as Standard Int pointed out before, we get some proper testing done, people are going to be stealing code from this file for years to come. And that's exactly what it should be. It should be a nice little resource where people can go, do you know what, I just need that quick function that does this. How's it done? And they can go and implement it in whatever language or product or whatever they want. And that's fine by me. So Majestic got the project compiled and running on your Mac. Yeah, so you're running on a Mac. Now, this popped up yesterday. I think something has changed in the Mac, perhaps ecosystem. If you just include cassert at the top of the Pixel Game Engine file, that will go away. So, because the problem is we don't really have very many Mac users. I don't have any Mac hardware, so I can't do any testing, but most of the devs for the Pixel Game Engine don't have any Mac hardware either. So we really are relying on the kindness of strangers to get Mac stuff working at all. But it does work. Once you fix that header file, it does kind of work. Somebody needs to do a shouts at for Rosso there, shouting at Max. So it's standalone, so it also includes all of the vector stuff. I've thrown that in. Now, this is very much geared towards how Pixel Game Engine 3 will be implementing things as well. So it's a slightly different syntax for things. And I opened it up to the community, and immediately 5 or 6 people have been chipping away at doing algorithms for all. So we've actually filled in quite a few. But if you do any searches for the phrase to do, you'll find there's still quite a lot of gaps. And as we've just seen, there are some inconsistencies which perhaps we need to start testing. Now, I always pronounce this wrong, but QWERTY, which is basically the top 7 keys of a QWERTY keyboard, went to town on sort of documenting their implementation. And I thought this was brilliant. I don't particularly like the layout, but nonetheless, I'm very tempted now to think about having this required for every single function as well. So it becomes a really genuinely interesting resource for anybody trying to steal these bits of code. So the file is getting there. It's growing in size. We can have a look at some of the other issues that were popped up. Oh no, we were going to fix one of the issues, weren't we? Because somebody didn't like the envelope C, envelope with a circle, and envelope with a rectangle. Instead, we've got to use bounding box and bounding circle. Ugh. Geometry is very easy to compare to complex maths in quantum physics, all deep stuff. You people in geometry lucky for easy stuff. Good. Is there some sort of editor for that kind of ASCII art? Yeah, there actually is. There's oh, but I think it always outputs these things as pictures. It doesn't actually do it as actual ASCII. No, you just do it the old-fashioned way in Notepad or the equivalent. So we're going to sort of rename these bounding functions, aren't we? That's what we were doing. And we will do a commit. So what's the easy? Is there some nice C++ syntactic sugar to just sort of alias a function? Anybody want to just quickly throw that into the chat? I don't think there is really. I don't really want to have to sort of double up everything. Maybe using, yeah, does that? No, I don't think it does it? Using, in this case, bounding circle. Let's just do bounding C. What equals envelope C? That doesn't work, does it? That's not right. Yeah, it's basically I want to sort of have two names for a particular function. What's this? Let's have a look. What's this? Template T, bounding box T, return envelope, standard forward T. Oh, let's have a look at that. Yeah, okay. I think I understand what that's doing. Bang that in here. Bounding box. Ugh. Does it have to be box? We have to use the whole word. Let's just tidy this up a little bit. So that's quite nice, actually. Yeah, I like that. So we don't have to do it for everything. It's just working it out automatically for the right shape. Okay. Yeah, good. Like that. All right, I'm going to steal this one. And we'll stick these down here at the bottom. Bounding circle. Ugh. There we go. Community project. I have no qualms in just stealing some code for that. There we go. You could do a parameter pack to support multiple args, which would look like this. There isn't really multiple args, though, is there, for this? It's bounding box of. It's always going to be a singular arg. Using the auto to deduce the function return type might also be a bit strange to some of the old school C++ programmers, but it's actually quite a nice way to solve a problem of not knowing what the return type is and letting the compiler just work it all out. Good thing this is geometry and not quantum physics. Yeah. Luckily, we're here to write games and cool stuff. Oh. So that's quite nice. So do you know what? We'll add that in. So let's show you how Visual Studio does things in Git, or how I do it. So I go up to this little box up here, and I type in I stole C standard ints code in a live stream to add proxy functions for the mal-aligned envelope functions. Is mal-aligned a word, or is it mal? No, I think it's a word. I approve this commit message. Okay, so I select commit all. Oh, do I need to save? I think I need to save. Yes. Not even going to test it. Not even going to compile. Do you know what? I should actually compile it, shouldn't I? Yeah, looks good. We'll actually have to call that somewhere. So I'm also going to fix that awful magenta colour. Yes, very dark magenta. You can't see anything that's going on. So let's just have magenta. There we are. And we're actually calling these envelopes. Envelope here. So let's have for triangle bounding circle. And let's have for triangle bounding box. for all the children out there. Compile that, make sure that's okay. Dragon Eye, yay! Oh, well, at least it compiled. That's a good start. Let's just make sure it does actually work. So I've got a triangle, and we want a circle and a bounding box. So you can actually see that bounding box now. That's much better, isn't it? And what was we did a bounding circle. Yes. Oh, it has. It's done it, hasn't it? Perfect. Good, 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 good. So that's kind of worked. Did a quick check, make sure it works. Made that better. And commit all. There we go, and it says 1 outgoing, and then I just press this little button, push, which has shoved it now straight to GitHub, so we can go and have a look. I don't need to do a pull request of my own stuff, and so it's just kind of done. So do you know what, we should answer this now. We should actually say resolved with proxy function after lengthy debate on Twitch live stream. Close. Bye bye. Pull request. So what have we got here? Fix overlap line missing edge case. Let's have a look. So Pyrotux has been doing quite a few of these. Let's have a look. What do you say? Pointed out a bug with rect intersects line. Maybe it's the one we've just been talking about. Doesn't actually say what the bug is. Fix rect overlap line missing edge case. So he's took out return. Not entirely sure what he's done here. Returns if it starts. Oh, okay. So there we go. That's actually I think what we were talking about. No, I don't really know what that's doing. What's that doing? Returning. Oh, I guess it's just it's faster, right? So that. You want it to short circuit, I suppose, don't you? So as soon as that returns true, so maybe you should actually have start and end as tests in there to actually do those before you do any of the edges. Yeah, not quite sure what that one's fully trying to do. And this one says to do returns 2 intersections when line intersects rectangle's corner should just return 1. That's just a comment, so that must be what he's going to be working on next. Yeah, do you know what? Happy with that. Fine, okay. Let's run with it. I mean, you should. Pushing straight to is, well, it's a bad idea. Yeah, it'll be okay. And that's it. Yeah, a lot of people give me a hard time for not knowing how to Git properly. Right, so there's not actually a way to do it. You've got to do review changes. I mean, I just want to just do it. See, I don't want this bit. Just merge. Yeah, merge. Go. Do it. Bang. Nice one. Perfect. Good. We've had quite a few pull requests. So, you know, so far there's been 16 implementations that have been added. Now, they're not all individual. Some of them are like big bulk changes as well. We should all have a big shared, a nice big shared G drive, I think, is what we should have. Force you all to use Google accounts to do these things. So the other issues, use temporary double for temporary scales. That's one I've been picking on. So there's been a few instances where people have, Pixie has been using sort of floating point types or integer types to store the results of square roots and whatnot. So that's a sort of a note to everybody that's taking part. Requires C++20, that's by Morris. So Morris has actually contributed quite a lot of stuff. So not so much in the geometry side of things, but very much in the build system side of things, which seems to be actually sort of what Morris is particularly good and enthusiastic about doing. Dropbox. As far as I'm concerned, Google Drive is fine. Why not just auto everything? Well, exactly. What if somebody does use a long double? That's right. The only reason I went for double, I don't think people will use long doubles. So I know there's some ancient lore on OLC about long doubles, which is what's making me giggle about that. You should have a look at that issue. Okay, well you can go and ask Megarev about his long double. Right, what am I doing? How am I doing? So so much. Right, I want to pull in this latest change. Oh, I was talking about what Morris is doing. So Morris has made it all sort of CMake compatible, which will compile for Inscripton and compile for whatever your platforms were. And I believe Majestic has presumably just tried that and kind of got it to work. So do we need to fix the C assert in the Pixel Game Engine implementation that's here? We've kind of a small, like, unofficial instruction that don't sort of change the these two files, because that's not really the object of this exercise. But if we're finding that Mac users are going to try this, perhaps it's worth just banging in the C assert just to make it work for those people. You added a PR. Okay, perfect. Okay, let's. Well, it's not come through. Oh yes, it has. There we are. Add C assert include to fix Clang compilation. So let's have a quick look. Since it's your first contribution, look at that. Look at that beauty there. There we go. Perfect. Let's go back. Click on this one. And merge. Perfect. It's that easy to take part in a One Lone Coder community collaborative project. There we go. Forever immortalized into these things. Actually, for Pixel Game Engine, I'll be pulling the header file out and probably updating that manually. But anybody that does contribute to that gets a credit in the header file. So there you are. You just got one. Good. Perhaps diversify closest functions. What did I mean by this? Tries on the Mac Wiki. Okay, yeah, thanks, Johnny G. Current closest functions yield closest point on a shape boundary to some nominated point, perhaps additional closest functions for shape versus shape. I think this is because, let's go and have a look. This is about. At the moment, if I go to my solution and I do, I'm in the wrong file. I want this file. Control F, closest PB. So I added in this navigation thing. So we can quickly get around the file, because there's a lot of like daft function names now. We only do closest to point, closest shape to point. And it did occur to me, what if you wanted the closest points of a circle to another circle? Or, you know, that sort of thing. So is it worth adding those in? I wonder in some situations, though, how you actually resolve that. So let's say you have two axis-aligned rectangles. What's the closest point between those two rectangles? Is non-trivial to define because it's an edge. It's not a single point. Yeah, we want to. We should be wooing the Mac users at this point because they're quite rare. Fun with geometry. Oh, Will, we were just praising you, Morris, for your CMake contributions, and that you seem to have a particular flair for sorting out the build systems for the stuff. And you know, I was saying thank you. So you've just turned up at just the right time. Well, we could return a line. Now, that is something that I was considering for the overlap functions with lines. What if your line does actually overlap another line? What should the returns be for the intersection? Should it just be a single point? I think it should be 2 points, the start and end of the subline, or the actively overlapped line segment. Should contains count cases. A line is on one of the outer edges. Should contains count cases. Example, a line is on one of the outer edges. Oh, you mean, well, in this case, it's I've defined contains. Maybe incorrectly. Does this need resolving? I've defined contains as being shape B exists entirely within shape A. Points from shape B can touch shape A boundary. So it's inclusive of lines that lie on the boundary. Well, it's already happened, Morris, before you've turned up tonight. So Majestic, a newcomer to the channel, I'm guessing, certainly new chatter, immediately went and got the repo for the Mac and compiled it. They found the same issue as Querazd did yesterday on the on the Discord with that see asserts. There's obviously something we need to look into there. But immediately got it up and running, and they've already submitted a PR. So it's working. Things are ticking over. So where am I going with all this? What was it all for? Well, it's a nice big collection of geometry stuff because that's where we're going with the editor. And I thought, well, do you know what? I want to sort of test out some of the geometry stuff. What is a sensible vehicle to do it? I had a feeling, Majestic, and I appreciate you taking part. See, it's much easier when things are interactive, isn't it? It's all good. It's all good stuff. And I thought what I would like to do is I'm conscious that I've not made any videos for some time, and it's not for the want of trying. But I wanted to get a video out before Christmas, and it's a video that's going to be about state machines fundamentally, because I saw a comment. We have a fairly active member on the Discord server called Ubuntu Jackson, and he's working on a project. It's very similar to like a Worms game, and it's a complicated project, and it's been fascinating to watch because he's joined the server with like no knowledge of programming at all, and we were all surprised when a couple of weeks ago the chap posted a video of his project. It's like really sophisticated stuff going on, and so it's been wonderful watching him on that journey. He asks a lot of questions, and sometimes can be a little bit frustrating with some of the amount of detail that they might want with the answers. But nonetheless, people are willing to help out, and he seems to be really plodding on. Where am I going with this? Because pointed out something to do with how you manage game states in things, and it always puzzles me when you start talking about game states. Half the community immediately say stack. You need a stack to do that, and I don't think you do. I don't think it's the right structure all the time. It has its place, but most of the time I think it's used incorrectly. And so I was going to make a video about that. And I thought, well, how do I make this a little bit more general purpose? If I just go straight into game states, how is that done? So I thought, actually, something that's enforcing a rule system is a bit more interesting to talk about. Now, I happened to have a day off work at the time. You might think, oh, you had a day off work. Why are you not doing loads of one-lone coder stuff? Well, because my day offs work are quite precious, and I needed to get acquainted with the couch. So thank you, Alice. Yes, state machines are interesting. See, Annie and I think we've discussed this in the past as well. I think we're on the same page with these things. So that's the idea I've got for this video. And I thought, what's a sensible vehicle for sort of showing this off? And I thought, well, I'm watching Ronnie O'Sullivan get trounced at the moment in the World Snooker Final. Let's have a go at making a snooker game. So let's just set this at the startup project. Hopefully this compiles. Now this is nowhere near complete. I was really just messing around, getting things ready as a vehicle for explaining state machine stuff. I've not even got that far with it yet, but I thought it'd be interesting to have a look at the progress on this. Hopefully it compiled. Oh, it didn't compile. It didn't compile. Because the Geometry 2D header failed. What's going on? This failed because it's not actually the Geometry 2D header file anymore. This is the previous one. Which one is it? Opened. Unexpected semicolon here. Oh, this was the one that didn't work, wasn't it? Yeah, so this was okay. I'm just going to bin those off. Do you know what? Don't need those. Just for the sake of getting this to compile straight away. Well, build then. Don't just tell me you're going to think about building. Get on with building. Build it. Thank you. Holden 2 Dicks. Hello. That's a super old vote. Yeah, exactly. So it's some old. It's 2 days old. That was so 2 days ago. Do bug fixes during fixing it in production? They kind of do, I guess, for me. Do you have geometry task in the space game also? Do we have a geometry task in the space game? Oh, space game. I remember space game. So, right, that's compiled. That's good. If I run this now, what it should be is a game of snooker. Look at this. This is pretty cool. I've changed it so we can target this way. Oh, straight into the pocket. I'd be no good at this. As you can see, there's no rules at the moment, so the ball can kind of bounce around, do whatever it wants. Let's try and get it at least back on the playing table. So I accurately modelled up a snooker table. This was actually really loads of fun. So I looked at the World Championship snooker rules for dimensions of things. It turns out they're actually a closely guarded secret. Would you believe, right? This is a competitive sport. There's tables all over the place, but nowhere can you get an actual genuine definition of how big a snooker pocket should be. They just have these mysterious templates, which on the day of the tournament, some guy official comes out and goes, yes, these pockets match our templates. Now, people have surmised actually what the sizes are, but I guess measuring them. So they are commonly reported, but they're not actually official anywhere, which I thought was interesting. Well, we've just had sort of quantum physics going on. That's exactly what I've got. It's quantum snooker. So that guy, if you're still about, you just missed out, didn't you? So this was using the ball simulation that I created ages ago. I rewrote it to exploit all of the vector stuff. I mean, I did the balls videos before OLC Vector even existed. But what I wanted to do was I wanted some sort of predictive circle versus circle routines, and I thought, and line versus circle thing. And that's what kickstarted my interest in trying to apply this geometry file. So I had two sort of influences. I had the editor that we've been working on, and this, thinking, oh, it'd be really nice if I just had that geometry file up and running. So there we go. Let's try and pop that one. Oh, miss. But are we doing continue? Yeah, that was the plan, Annie. Well, at least for the first couple of stages, because it's almost impossible to aim and sensibly get what you need out of this. You need something. Else it's just too difficult to play accurately. And I thought it'd be fun. And if I can twist Morris's arm, he might share some of the inscription code required to submit scores to a leader table somewhere, and we can see who can get the highest breaks. Even though most people watching this won't have a clue what snooker is. Perfectly working physics. They're working brilliantly. It's just the back of the pockets don't have any edges. In fact, the physics do actually work quite well, because if I can aim this at the right place, look, I've implemented the jaws. See? The jaws even work. So these are genuine collision edges. It's quite nice. But all of this is labelled as it's to scale. This is a genuinely scale snooker table. So hopefully we'll see the snooker table again, maybe before the end of the year, as a demonstration of how to implement rules of a game using a state machine. Yeah, you see, Morris, I think of you doing these things. Right? The 8-ball is a black hole. Well, yes, it's not... you may have worked out already how I've done these balls. They are a grayscale decal that's then tinted appropriately. It's a bit of a cheat, but of course black doesn't tint very well, so it's a bit rubbish. Let's smash all these up. Boom, I'm all over the place. I was asked when I first showed this quick demo on the Discord server, what kind of spatial partitioning tree are you using to manage the optimization of the collisions? And it did occur to me, there's really only 22 balls, so it really doesn't matter. As you can see, the frame rate is not suffering in the slightest. This table, Speedy, well done, mate. That's exactly what I was going for, because I used to play that too. That's why it's that way round. Right. So there we go. Thank you, Majestic, for all the subscriptions today. It's quite cool when stuff like that happens on Twitch. I don't fully understand it, but nonetheless, it is appreciated. Oh, and Johnny G, thank you for the subscription as well. Yes. There was a Beeb one. Yeah, it was actually it was quite funny, because you'd do the break at the start, and it would sort of just all stop whilst it calculated everything. And then the balls would just sort of go poof all over the place. It would be nice to sort of implement it that way. Right, with that, thank you very much for visiting tonight, and hopefully back to normal service next week. I know we started off at a funny time, and it's simply because I made a mistake calculating the time. But there we go. So that was a bit of a diversion today. Oh, I've got to play the thing, haven't I? Else Bixie shouts at me now if I don't play it. He needs to get his royalty fees somehow. So until next time, take care.